All right, for this week's project, we are going to need some of our thicker wire, some thinner wire, some of these round beads here, or you can use really whatever beads you'd like, and a round nose pliers here. All right, to start, we are going to make our clasp. So I'm going to start kind of towards the end of my round nose pliers here, and I'm just going to wrap this wire around just to create a little circle here. And it doesn't, you can totally adjust this later on, so just kind of a starting point here to get us started, and that will be ultimately the end of your bracelet where you clasp it off to at the end. So to make the actual weavy part that your beads will go in, we are going to curve this around these larger parts of the base of the round nose pliers. So I'm gonna kind of grab here, right at the end, right by my clasp, and I'm just gonna start twisting this back and forth. And then what you can do, once you've twisted one there, you can kind of like twist it just back and forth within your pliers here, just kind of switching what's in the middle, rotating it like this all the way down your wire. All right, and then once you have this kind of squiggly shape here, you're gonna wanna kind of measure along your wrist as you're going, just to make sure that it's gonna end up being the right size for you in the end. So we see that my ends are close to touching, so this is a good stopping point, I think, for me. So I'm gonna finish off with my hook here just to make our frame. So I'm gonna go, this looks like honestly a good amount of wire left to have here. So just roughly, honestly, I would say like the length of the end of your pliers. So mine's probably a little on the short end, but it'll work out. That's how much you're gonna wanna have left. And you're gonna go right in the middle of that and just kind of fold it like this in half, kind of like that. And then just kind of squish it down. You can do this either with the round nose pliers, but also these needle nose pliers might help out a little more too. Just kind of squish that down so that those two ends stay together a little bit more and kind of create this little hook-shaped deal. And then I'm just gonna bend that hook. It might help to hold your end with your needle nose pliers, and then grab the other side with your round nose pliers and just kind of fold that part in half to create a hook-like shape here, and just kind of keep toying with that until it's looking the way that you want it to. You can do some pinching here of it like that, and just keep playing around with that until it looks like a hook shape. Give me a pop. All right, so I'm feeling pretty satisfied with this hook here. Really all you need it to do is be curved enough that when you roll this over, it'll hook into there and hold on, and not be sharp or poking out or anything like that. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter too much what it is like. So our next part, I'm gonna straighten that wire back out again. All right, and now we are going to wrap our small wire around here, and you can start at either end, it doesn't really matter, but you're just going to get an initial wrap kind of going here. I find it easiest to get started with my fingers, and then you can sometimes get a better grab on it with pliers, or you can just wrap with your fingers. Take your pick, whatever you prefer, just to kind of get this initial wrap going. And you don't have to worry about getting too close to the end of your thin wire here. You can just trim that little part off and kind of flatten in this end here with your pliers. Again, just so that it's not poking you or anything. All right, and once we have that edge tucked in there, I'm gonna do just another wrap around there just to make it nice and secure from the other direction as well. And then it's time to thread on our first bead. And this wire can be kind of unruly at first, but it'll get easier the further that you go and the shorter that your wire gets. But you're gonna thread on that first bead all the way down and have it sit in that first little squiggle that you made. Then we are going to take this other end of the wire, make sure you're pulling it tight as you do this to really hold that bead in there. And you're gonna wanna just wrap it around, making sure that it'll help it make it look more cohesive if you make sure that you're not twisting your wire as you're doing this. So when you're laying it down, you wanna lay it right next to where it was before. You don't wanna cross over like this. So just keep wrapping like this, pulling it over, laying it down next to the next one until you get to the other side of this little hump. And then once you get to about halfway down, you've kind of just passed that curve part of this one, you're gonna thread on your next bead. So same process here. Just grab a bead and thread it on all the way down so that you're in this next little curve here. And then you're just gonna keep doing the same thing where I'm gonna wrap this around here, pull it nice and tight. If you wanna maintain consistency of kind of how your beads are falling so that they don't go like up and down, you can make sure that you're continuing the same direction, if that makes sense. So before I was wrapping around this way. So if I just remember that I always, after I put my bead on, I'm gonna wanna go under my bracelet, that'll kind of help keep my beads all on the same side as opposed to staggering back and forth. And now that we're on our next wrapping part, we're just gonna keep doing that same thing we were doing before. Just wrapping this around, and you're really just gonna keep repeating these same two steps of wrapping around one wave part and then putting a bead in the next one, and you're just gonna continue that all the way down your bracelet. Okay, and then once you get all of your beads on here and all your wire wrapped around, it's really easy to finish it off. You just come right to the end, snip it as close as you can, and then I like to use the pliers to kind of just tuck that end in, just really squish it down in there so that it doesn't stab you while you're wearing it. And then what we are going to do is kind of just round it out to be our shape. Now we don't have any wrist mandrels, any bracelet mandrels, but this wire is super malleable, so it's pretty easy to adjust. What I'm gonna do is I'm kind of just folding it. I'm turning it into a circle, but I'm kind of pulling out as I do it because your wrist isn't a perfect circle, so you kind of want it to be a like flat oval. So I'm gonna kind of pull out as I do this and then hook around there, and then I'm gonna kind of squish here and just kind of push on it a little bit, very gently, until it forms kind of roughly this shape. Then I'm going to put it on and clip it on, and then you can kind of just do any adjustments while it's on you as well. So I'm sure you felt how malleable the wire is, so you really can just twist it and turn it until it looks the way that you want to, and then you are done.